Welcome to episode 3 of Art of Retirement. This week's episode is on travel planning in retirement.
Mm.
Now, you've saved for years to reach this point in life. You've developed a financial plan and saved up your money, and you've achieved financial freedom. You have all this time on your hands now, and hopefully you still have your health. And you probably have that bucket list of items that you've been putting off for years and have dreamed of retiring to. Say, Croft, do you know how many retirees have travel as one of their items
A
on their
hun
bucket list?
112.
100, well, it's close to that. Actually, 62% of financially freed individuals uh, have travel amongst their bucket item lists, and that actually is the number one item selected in a survey that was dealt out to a fair number of people.
Yeah, well, I can
So,
see that.
uh,
Yeah, my
so
wife and I, we have wanted to travel, see the world, but we're not really sure how to begin the process, and I know that you and your wife have traveled abroad extensively. So, could you walk me through a little bit of the process?
absolutely, that's exactly what this episode is about. Now, there are certainly a lot of considerations in planning retirement travel. Yes, I definitely can answer your question there, Croft. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Mhm.
I'm going to break travel down into two types. Basically, the first is cruise based travel, and most people understand what that is. You fly to a port, you get on a boat, you unpack once, and that boat becomes your home away from home for
Mhm.
7 days, 10 days, 20 days, however long you happen to be on it. And typically, that ship will visit a variety of ports, either Caribbean is where a lot of people will cruise, or if you cruise internationally, it'll hit a number of ports internationally as well, maybe in the Mediterranean. Uh, and the second type of travel, what I like to think of as land-based travel, and that's where you fly into an airport and you are on your own. You are um, all the planning, all the scheduling, all of that is up to you versus on a cruise type vacation or cruise type travel, you're pretty much tied into and linked up with the schedule that the cruise line has for you.
Well, that planning is what seems intimidating to me, so keep walking.
I did talk to someone the other day, and they were telling me that they're a retired individual, and they say that they know a lot of people who say they want to travel when they retire, but unfortunately, something holds them back. Either just uncertainty, like you say, of, well, how do you plan this? Or
Yeah.
maybe some fear about, well, what if we get over there and there's a problem? So that does hold people back. So now within the land-based travel world, there are different styles of travelers. There's what's called a fast traveler, and that's a person who may go from location to location, with probably staying less than a week in any given location, and maybe only 2 days. If you're a fast traveler, actually, my wife and I, we consider ourselves fast travelers. You want to try to avoid 1 day stays because those could be pretty tiring. Now, there's also mid range travelers or mid speed travelers who might go to a given location and stay there for a week or two, maybe dig in a little more deeply into that location. And then there are the slow travelers. And those are people who will go to a location, perhaps rent an Airbnb or something of that nature, and stay for 2, 3, or 4 weeks. They really want to absorb the culture that they're in, and they are willing to commit the time to do that.
I had been a fast
So,
traveler before, going from country to country, fairly rapidly, but that was at Epcot.
yes, but even that's pretty tiring, right? I mean,
It was tiring.
it was very tiring. I hear exactly what you're saying. So what I want to do today is run through 7 steps that I go through when I start to plan travel. When my wife and I go out, we typically will go for a 3 to 4 week and hit a variety of locations during that time frame. Putting all of that information together, gathering all that information, organizing it can be really foreboding. And I have a process that I go through when I do that. In order to step through those steps, we are going to jump right on over into our Etch a Sketch.
I was hoping for that.
There we go. Yes, we bring it in the Etch a Sketch, and let's start off on step one. Step one of planning travel. You need to decide where you're going to go. Um, my wife and I recently took a trip to the United Kingdom this past fall. So the process we went through there is, again, we decided where we wanted to go. The main place we wanted to go was a Scottish town called Aberdeen. We have some ancestral roots there that we wanted to explore. We put that on our list. The next place we wanted to go to was a place called the Cotswolds. We'd been to London several times before, and that, of course, is a big city, easy to get around with, good public transportation. But we kind of wanted to get out into the countryside and experience some smaller villages, experience a more rural culture of the English countryside. Another place we wanted to go was Belfast in Northern Ireland. We have a church connection there. Some people we know through church who live in Belfast. And as long as we were over in the old UK, we thought we would stop by and visit with them. And since we were going to be in the Cotswolds near London and would be heading up to Belfast, we figured a good place to stop would be Liverpool. Check out all the Beatles sites, Penny Lane, Strawberry Fields, the history, the Beatle history there. We also wanted to go to Glasgow. We also have a church connection there with someone and wanted to go visit with them as well. And since we were going to be up in the Scotland area, I figured Edinburgh would be another lovely place to go to. It's never been there before. It's a very attractive town with a lot of history. So now that we decided where we want to go, the next step is to identify the inner city transportation needs that we would have to arrange in order to hit all of those locations. And the way we do that is to jump into good old Google. And like in the case of getting up into the Cotswolds, we was looking at various towns in that area and decided to go to a town called Cirencester, which is very close to some other towns we wanted to go to, Burton on the Water, Stow on the Wold. These are small villages. Now they are very touristy. This is a tourist area. The people from London will come out to this area to vacation. So these are all fairly touristy, but they're all little villages that sprung up in the 14th, 15th, 16th century, and they have a lot of that feeling to them. So we decided to head up to Cirencester. As we're looking at how to get there, we saw we could come into Heathrow, and there was a bus available that we could take a bus from Heathrow up into the town. So that would at least get us that far. Now, one of the things people say about this area of the UK is that a lot of people just rent a car to make this journey, but we didn't really feel comfortable with renting a car. We traveled 23 different countries and have never rented a car. We just don't feel like taking that responsibility. So the question was, could we do this using bus transportation? And at least we could get a bus from Heathrow out to this small town that we were going to use as our staging point for other travels into some of these other villages. So then we researched traveling from Cirencester up into Liverpool, and that turned out to be 2 buses and a train to get up to Liverpool. But then once we were at Liverpool, we were unsure how we were going to get across to Belfast. So we went to good old Google again and found that there was a ferry that ran from Liverpool to Belfast. And not only that, it was a ferry that ran at night and you could get a room on that ferry. Any chance we get where we can travel at night and sleep, we try to use that opportunity. It saves us a day of travel rather than spending 8 hours on a train. If we can sleep and get from point A to point B, then that's a win-win. And plus, it's pretty cool to ride these various ferry trains and whatnot around in Europe. That's a ferry that we rode on. You can see the top row of windows, which is where the rooms were that we stayed in. So now we have the inner city transportation worked out. And now we need to take a look and decide what sites at each location do we want to look at. That's where a lot of the research comes in. I don't think there is a city on the map that doesn't have a YouTube video describing what sites there are to see in that city. This is a Google map representation of Barcelona. That's an upcoming trip we have planned. And you can see where I've gone in and marked places of interest that we would like to go to when we're there. And that comes from watching some YouTube videos of other people who have been there and talked about locations that they went and visited when they were in a certain location. So that's our go-to to then figure out what is there to see. Once we've decided that, then we decide how long we need to stay in each location. If there are a lot of sites to see, we may stay there 3 days, 4 days. If there's not very much, we may only stay there 2 days. But then we begin to start putting a timeline together, and it's really just made up of what is there to see, and how long do we think it will take to see those things.
Okay.
And then once we've done that, then we'll take a look to see where are we going to stay at this location. You'll see, like in this particular map, there's a cluster of places that we want to see, the little birthday emojis. So we'll look for a hotel that's somewhere in that area so that we can either walk to the things we want to see or that it's easy to get to them using bus or subway. And when we look for hotels, we look for, well, we try to stay away from the Hiltons, the Marriotts, the Holiday Inns, the big chain motels. We try to look for smaller places, family run, go boutique kind of hotels, just because they're more interesting than the vanilla national brand hotels. So in this most recent trip, we stayed at this lovely place. They had
Very
15
nice.
rooms. It was built in the 1600s. What it was the home for the wool merchant back in the 1600s. When we can, we look for these kinds of places to stay. Though we have stayed in the chain hotels before, but again, we try to look for these kinds of places. Just as another example, in Finland, we stayed in glass igloos. Again, neat places to stay, one off, interesting places to stay that kind of add the adventure to our.
And they say those who stay in glass igloos should not throw snowballs.
Exactly, exactly. And the curtains only went up about so high in that igloo. So you had to be sure that the lights were out when you were changing, for sure. Again, the other thing, going back to the ferry that I talked about earlier, we look for ways to travel where we can travel overnight so we don't lose a day traveling. This happens to be the Santa Express, which runs from Rovaniemi, Finland down to Helsinki. It's an overnight train. You can see the lovely accommodations. And the idea is that you sleep on that to where you're going, wake up the next morning refreshed and ready to go. So as you're looking for places to stay, you might look for these kinds of places. It's just one-off, unique, fun things to do. And they get you from point A to point B in this case. So now that we've identified each location where we're staying, now we need to figure out how we're going to get around transportation wise within that location. In the case of the Cotswolds, there were a number of towns that we wanted to go see that were not close by. We stayed in Cirencester, which is that center city there, and these are bus routes that will take us up. We went up to Bibury, Burton on the Water, variety of these small villages uh, that had been old wool towns, sheep towns back in the 16th century. We were able to do that by taking buses. We didn't need a car. We, in fact, were able to just jump on a bus and get up there.
And all this information, the schedules and such, were just right there on your phone.
And all this information is on the phone. Like the next case, here is the bus we took up to Vibery from our hotel. We stayed at the Corinium Hotel in Cirencester. It shows you how long it'll take you to walk to the bus stop, where the bus stop is, how many stops there are between where you're getting on and where you're getting off. And you can actually bring up Google Maps and you can watch yourself as you proceed down the route so you can feel comfortable that you're on the right bus and that it's going the right direction and have a heads up of when your stop is coming. So it makes it very simple. So if you're nervous about traveling internationally, really Google Maps, Apple Maps, they have really taken a lot of the guesswork and a lot of the fear out of it. In the case of the walk, here's the path we took from our hotel over to where we caught the bus. 13-minute walk, very easily done. Wonderful experience. Jump on the bus. You can get the schedule. You see when the buses are coming. It's all right there on the phone. So now we've done all this stuff. We decided where we're going. We know what kind of transportation we need. We know what sites we want to visit, how long we're going to stay there. So how do you put this all together? What I always do is I will create a spreadsheet that will go down and list for the days that we're there, when we leave, where we leave, what type of transportation, what airline, the flight number, what time we leave, what time we come in. I would have hotel names here down the list. I would have confirmation numbers here of the travels that we're doing, when we're coming into the towns, again, what hotels we're staying at, and then a note column over here that says, oh, okay, we're going to take the national bus from Heathrow. Then we're going to take the ferry from Liverpool to Belfast. When we get into Belfast, we're going to take the Viator Giants Causeway tour, and then we're going to tour the Titanic Museum in Belfast and whatnot. We're going to visit a castle. We're going to visit another castle. What time we enter into the castle. All these little notes that go along with the trip, and this really helps me from missing getting a hotel reservation I need, or getting transportation from point A to point B that I need. Because all of this needs to be filled in, and I can easily look at it and say, okay, I have all the holes plugged. I know where I'm traveling, how I'm traveling. I'm traveling on a train here. I'm traveling on more trains here. This is an overnight train from Glasgow to London. Just all the information is here. No holes missed. Everything lined up and organized. And the other,
so
the
with
final,
all that in hand, really you just have to hop on the bus, Gus, and you don't have to make a new plan, Stan. It's all right there.
that's right. Exactly. Exactly. Along with this, then I also have this that I take along with me, which is a printout of all the various reservations, bus schedules, bus tickets, plane tickets, everything here. I have a little bundle. So if my phone goes bad, I have a backup for everything. So you can feel very comfortable that that's covered. So far, I've never had to use that. So I have a paper copy. I have a copy on my phone, and I have all the original emails so that I can access from my phone internationally as well. So that's it. That's how at least that's how I plan out a trip. We're usually out for, again, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, hitting all these various places, and it's fast travel. A couple of days here, a couple of days there. We're covering a lot of territory very quickly. The one thing I failed to mention earlier up was a joke about taking a ferry across the Mersey.
Oh,
I don't know. Does that ring a bell?
it does.
Jerry and the Pacemakers. Jerry and the Pacemakers. Ferry across the Mersey. Well, we didn't actually cross the Mersey on a ferry. You could if you wanted to. We actually took an Uber over to get on the ferry, but we did go on a ferry on the Mersey. So for what that's worth, I don't know. And that is how I put a trip together. Don't have to do it that way, but certainly I find that to work pretty well, and everything usually comes off pretty well.
You're not going to cover the other travel considerations?
Yes, other things to think about. I could go on a long, long time. We're going to try to cut this video off here in a few minutes. There are some other considerations, things to think about, which we can put in upcoming videos if there's interest out there. You need to decide is like, do you want to just walk around and tour yourself or use a local provider? How are you going to connect to the internet? Wi-Fi is pretty available everywhere you go, but there are other ways to connect to communications through your phone. How are you going to pack? We've depends on the trip, of course, how you pack. The Finland trip, we went from there being feet of snow and then traveling down to Amsterdam to catch the opening day of the Tulip Festival. We went from really cold weather to moderately warmish weather. So you have to figure out how to pack for all of that. There are language concerns. We have never had any issues with language. You have translator on your phone that's available. Most of these European countries, the people who work in the hospitality industry are bilingual, so they speak English, and you can communicate with them fairly easily. The local currency, it's easily gotten from ATM machines. There are debit cards that are obtainable where you can pull money out of ATM machines around the world, and they will reimburse you for any ATM fees that you're charged. So that's easily taken care of. Travel documents, what visas you might need, what passport you might need, things along those lines. Travel insurance, the consideration, how to handle jet lag, just so much there.
So is that all you got, Art?
That is about all I got. Hey, if you want to hear more about travel, I love to talk about travel. That when I retired, my retire to was travel. So anyway, leave a comment below if you want to learn more about
Yeah, this actually, Art, this episode has been very helpful for me. And if it's been helpful to any of our people that are watching, I hope that you'll click like and certainly subscribe to the channel as well. I think we've only got 995 more subscribers to go before we reach the 1,000 that we're looking for. And if anyone wants to, be a sponsor, you can certainly get in on the ground floor and be a corporate sponsor as well. So, join us.
absolutely
Join us.
anybody if anybody wants to.
That's true. Okay. Thanks, Art. That was very helpful.
All right, very good. As we close out this episode today, I just want to remind you, free advice is worth every penny you pay for.
Live long and prosper.
Thanks. Bye.